Hi, this is Aaron and Linda with Traveling Flamingo, and today we're going to talk about what the cruise lines are doing with vaccinated and unvaccinated passengers, and also for all of those in America, wishing you a happy early July 4th. All that coming right up.
It is so exciting to start seeing cruising resume in the US. It is the largest cruise market in the world and employs hundreds of thousands of people. There's been a lot of effort to ensure that cruising can resume safely. With that comes new protocols and requirements. There's been a lot of discussion and even lawsuits around rules and vaccinations. You cannot be mandated to be vaccinated to travel, but it will make your experience very different. If you are vaccinated, cruising will be very similar to the way it was pre-COVID times. You can attend shows, enjoy meals, restaurants, and lounges, and depending on the cruise line, there'll be even times where you don't need to have your mask.
Which is great for vaccinated passengers. If you are not vaccinated, there's going to be some changes. Firstly, not all cruise lines are allowing unvaccinated guests. You will have to have extra testing at your own expense, and there will be areas where you will not be able to go. Cruise lines are doing this as they want to resume sailing and make money while keeping COVID cases low and trying to keep themselves positive in the news. As we all remember, the Diamond Princess was a bit of a bad news story for them. Requiring vaccines and guests having different experiences has caused a lot of controversy, as you can imagine. I can't say I'm surprised by the controversy. This entire pandemic has been riddled with controversy, and making it harder for people who are not vaccinated is another one. Medical experts at the CDC have stated that vaccines are crucial to keeping cruising safe. We've seen a lot of cruise lines and ports make it mandatory to be vaccinated to cruise. However, this is not the case in Florida, where they're trying to pass a law that you cannot require proof of vaccine. With that being said, companies like Celebrity Cruise Lines, a subsidiary of Royal Caribbean, has already set sail from Florida, having a vaccinated requirement of 98% of guests. There are broadly two types of cruises at this point, vaccinated and unvaccinated. For those who are vaccinated, you'll have a completely different cruise experience than those who are not fully vaccinated.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what that's going to be like in more detail for the not fully vaccinated. Royal Caribbean Cruise Line is not requiring vaccines, but has brought in different ways to identify passengers that have been vaccinated or not. If you are vaccinated, you will wear a wristband, and if you're not vaccinated, your room card will have a punch in it. They are going to have some venues and events that only vaccinated guests can attend. Royal Caribbean has also stated that guests who are 16 and older and aren't vaccinated are going to need to take COVID tests before, during, and after the cruise, and they will be charged $136 for that. Prices may vary. When moving around the ship, all passengers vaccinated or not are going to have to wear a mask because it's an unvaccinated cruise. And at events, there will be events just for vaccinated passengers, and at those events, masks won't be required. Dining is also going to look different, as there's going to be separate areas for vaccinated and not vaccinated, and people who are unvaccinated will be locked into a set dining time. Something else unvaccinated travelers are going to need to be aware of, traveling on Royal Caribbean and potentially other cruise lines as well, is travel insurance. Royal Caribbean has stated that unvaccinated passengers of 12 years of age and older are going to have to buy travel insurance. This is in the case they test positive for COVID-19 while on board, and it will cover the cost of medical, travel, and more.
As you can see, there are a lot of hoops and challenges for non-vaccinated passengers. If you are vaccinated, it would be easier to take a fully vaccinated cruise than one that's partially vaccinated, as the partially vaccinated ones have all these other concerns on them. As we stated earlier, Celebrity has set sail and was actually the first cruise line to resume sailing from the United States, specifically Port Everglades and Fort Lauderdale. They have had all of their crew vaccinated and have at least 95% of guests, so they do not need to do the test cruise phase that was required by the CDC. One way they're trying to get around the guests being mandated to prove vaccination, since we know Florida's not a big fan of that, at port is it that if the guest is 16 years or older and declines to show proof that they are vaccinated, they will be treated as unvaccinated guests with restrictions and additional costs for testing. If they want to go ashore, they will need to be in a celebrity-led excursion or more depending on the local port. This does allow people to choose if they want to cruise or not without being vaccinated requirements. These cruise lines have put the extra protocols in place because they really don't want to have the issues with major breakouts on ships. It's going to be a huge media concern if there's a gigantic breakout. We see it every time there's a sniffle on a ship these days. It's in the news. Everyone is watching very closely, and they'll want to know that these are successful. This doesn't mean it will be this way forever, but it does mean that's the way it is for now. And you can definitely see this with, sort of, again, all these rules they're putting in place. You're creating sort of two types of passengers, and it's going to be interesting how that's going to end.
Yeah, I think that that's something that I know there has been discussion about for a while, but it's very clear. And as the cruising has started, they are going to have different rules and expectations for people who are vaccinated versus people who are unvaccinated. And, I'm so thankful to all the crew on board. And I just hope everyone's respectful because, it's everyone's trying to do their job and keep everybody safe. But no one wants to be told you can't go to this area or you can't eat at this certain time. So it's just going to be really interesting to see how people will respond and how this actually is in effect once everybody's on board.
Yeah, I'm sure people aren't going to take it well. Generally they don't. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting.
Now, actually, there are still some cruise lines that we are waiting to get details from. Carnival has been approved to set sail, but we have not heard how they're going to navigate these laws in Florida or the requirements on board. Norwegian Cruise Line has not even been approved by the CDC yet, but they have stated that all their ships will be 100% vaccinated. And many travelers have stated that they plan on choosing their cruise and their destination based on these rules and vaccines. And there's actually a lot who really do want the vaccines. This does bring up the issue of cruise credits. There are a lot of guests, some guests that have a lot of money tied up in future cruise credits. And depending on the cruise line and if you're getting vaccinated or not, this could be an issue, as every cruise line at this point has created their own rules around vaccinated and unvaccinated cruisers, meaning if you have a cruise credit with a cruise line requiring vaccines and you're unvaccinated, you may have an issue redeeming the monies you paid, or are they going to extend the future cruise credit? Also, if you're vaccinated and you want to be on a fully vaccinated cruise, but the cruise line's not offering that, are they going to extend those credits? And who would have thought when you were making this choice back at the start of 2020, March maybe of 2020, is my future cruise credit going to be on a vaccinated or not vaccinated cruise ship?
At the end of the day, I think the cruise lines are going to have to do something, because if you can't sail because you're not vaccinated, or you don't like the options because you are vaccinated, I think they got to do something. Yeah,
either if it's extending and saying, because maybe now the cruising will start up, but if it's extending and saying, okay, we will give you longer to redeem as we figure out what's happening, but it's definitely something that they're going to have to figure out. And I'm interested to see how they respond. I think that people, if you're not vaccinated and the cruise line has come out and said you have to be fully vaccinated, well, they have to give you. You got to give them the money back.
Yeah, well, and, it's no fault of your own, really. I guess you could argue that not getting vaccinated is your fault in this context. But, it's not exactly your fault that you can't get on their ship because they're requiring vaccines, or opposite, you don't like their offerings because they're not requiring vaccines.
Yeah, and everybody is allowed to make their choice around the vaccine, so you can't say that, you could have cruised if you got vaccinated. That is not, I don't think that is not the message that they want to be sending out either.
On the flip side, though, they don't want outbreaks. Although they are still having the unvaccinated cruises too, so it's kind of a hard message for them, right? I think they're kind of, I feel for the cruise lines because they're in a position where, they don't want to have COVID on ships. They got to get back sailing. They've got this weird law stuff going on in Florida now, which is the most popular destination. And then you've got to deal with vaccinated and unvaccinated. And then all the requirements around testing when you get off the ship, even for people vaccinated, because many people who are traveling abroad are going to need to get the antigen or PCR test to prove when they come back to their country that they don't have COVID. So you're going to need to set those facilities up. And there's just so much logistics. I do feel for the cruise lines, which I don't usually say, but it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, and I think that, having gone the year and a half without any income for some of them, I mean, there has been cruising in Europe and cruising in the Caribbean.
It's not been the same.
The U.S. being the size of the market that it is for them.
I don't think any of them have made a profit in the year. So.
Yeah, they want to get those going and get this going and have it be successful. So I think an easy solution would be extending the future cruise credit even longer.
And to your point, like a lot of you are watching these, trying to figure out, is it safe? Have the first couple gone? And obviously the cruise lines don't want those first few to be disasters, because then you're not going to book your 2022 cruise, right? So, it's a hard spot for them all.
Yes, but overall, we are so happy to see that cruising is back.
Yeah.
And thank you to all the employees and everybody working who've made that happen. And it is definitely a little harder, and it will cost a little bit more if you're not vaccinated. But if you are vaccinated, it sounds like once you're on the ship, your experience is going to be very similar than it was in the past. And I'm happy that all guests, regardless of your vaccination choice, that you do have an option. And I do think that is important.
Yeah, so we understand everyone has a choice whether they want to be vaccinated or vaccinated. But on the flip side, the cruise companies also have a choice as to what they're going to put in place, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated as a private organization. So, we're suggesting you get the vaccine. It'll be a better trip experience. It'll sort of be easier for everybody on board. But we, again, understand why people may not, or, medically can't, because there's various different allergies and so forth that would prevent you from doing that, which is why vaccination is so important, so that, these people are safe who would normally get it but can't.
So what do you think of the fully vaccinated cruises, and what do you think of these new restrictions brought in for people who are unvaccinated? Let us know in the comments below. We really do love being part of this community and having all these discussions with everybody. So thank you very much to everybody who's taken the time to watch our videos, to like and subscribe. It really does mean a lot to us as a small channel still growing. So thanks again, and happy travels.